Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Tess Mauricio and we're here at the Aesthetic Show Live, and I am so excited to have as our guest a man who doesn't need any introduction, Dr. Drew Ordon, board certified.
Well, you're not as excited as I am.
Yeah, really?
And this is cool. You've been on my show numerous times.
Yes, and so we're turning the tables around.
I interviewed you, now you get to pick my brain
I
a little bit.
know, and I was thinking about it. What do people want to know about Dr. Drew Ordon? Number one, do you really practice still?
Well, you know, that has been a problem because they see me on TV 5 days a week.
Yes.
During the day, daytime TV. We're getting ready to start our 12th season.
Congratulations.
So, I mean, that is a major
huge.
coup lasting that long on daytime TV.
Absolutely.
It's over 1,500 episodes. But
And
people,
still looking this good.
I know that. People walk in the office, they see me, and they go, well, I just saw you on TV, but you're here in your office. So obviously, episodes are taped.
Yes.
And we tape the whole season sort of in advance. So because of that, it allows me to both practice and do the TV show. And, you know, I think it's, for some people it's hard. They don't think that I'm still practicing, even though they see me do all the stuff on TV.
Exactly.
So I am practicing, and
Well,
I have
that's
no intention of slowing down.
very, very good to know, because I'm sure a lot of the people that watch On the Doctor would want to see you as their doctor. And how do you keep it all in balance? How do you do it all? I mean, I'm trying my best to do, and I'm definitely not as busy as you.
I mean, there's a lot of juggling that goes on. I have my two practices, Beverly Hills and Rancho Mirage.
Okay.
It's a little bit of driving between the two, but when I go to the desert practice, it's for a week. I have a home there as well, so I check in and do my surgeries, see my patients, and I'm there to follow them during the course of that week. And then it's back to Beverly Hills, and then we touched on it in season when I'm taping. I do that on Thursdays and Fridays, and
Wow.
then new project for me, I'm going to Dubai now. I've been doing that every 6 weeks.
Wow.
In fact, I finish tomorrow here. I fly into LAX and I'm going to go directly to Emirates and fly to Dubai. It's a 16-hour flight, so I'm going to get a nice little
That's it.
rest
No
going there.
slowing down for Dr.
Well,
Ordon.
no, I think that just staying busy and enjoying what you do keeps you young and engaged and sort of keeps your battery recharging.
I totally agree. And so when you are in your practice, what is the most common surgical procedure that you're doing?
Board certified plastic surgeon, trained in everything, face and body. I did head and neck surgery first, so if anything, I have more of an expertise on the facial stuff. So, at this point in time, I like doing facelifts, noses, facial contouring the most, but I still do a lot of liposuction. I like to use the Vaser high def liposuction. I do my share of Brazilian butt lifts, BBLs.
Yes.
I like using the fat. Something I'm doing more of is taking the fat and doing primary breast enhancement instead of using an implant, using patient's own fat.
That's the
mommy
trend.
makeovers. So it's the usual, the standby procedures and standard procedures in plastic surgery I like to do.
What are you most excited about? And obviously at the Aesthetic Show, you hear all of the trends, emerging technologies. What are you most excited about?
I mean, this industry has just gone crazy.
Incredible,
I mean,
right?
I think what am I most excited about? I think it's just that there's so much new stuff. So today I didn't lecture per se myself. I did that yesterday. So I attended the regenerative medicine session.
Correct.
So
I've given a couple of lectures
the
on
stem cells and,
Yes.
and the newest and latest with that continually evolves, and it's going to continue to evolve. We're not quite there yet 100%, but but it gets better all the time.
And every year it gets better, and new technologies, new protocols.
And then after that, I went to the sexual well-being, sexual rejuvenation,
Important.
anti-aging,
Yes.
which is a topic that really didn't exist when I did my training. It's only now becoming a subspecialty, and people do that as a sole practice.
Well, I did a lecture today at the Regenerative Aesthetics Symposium on vaginal restoration and rejuvenation using regenerative methods, and it is a dermatologist going into the vaginal restoration field, and I think that's also exciting because you're a plastic surgeon, I'm a dermatologist, and there are a lot of other types of doctors that are here at the aesthetic show.
And I think that's very healthy, that in attending this sexual well-being conference, I mean, it was dermatologists, urologists, OBGYN, plastic surgeons, so it's different disciplines, and you know, we all look at things a little bit different, but I think since it's a whole new area, the fact that there's
Everyone's contributing.
There's different disciplines all contributing. They have their different perspective on a given subject, so that's what makes these new areas grow, and that's what I love about this meeting, that it's multidisciplinary. It always has been.
Yes, it's my favorite.
It is too. That there's no, you know, society is involved. There's no politics. Yes, there's a group that runs it. They have their business, but it doesn't really affect us. We're here
To think about what's best for our
100%.
patients.
We're here to think about medicine,
Correct.
the latest and greatest and newest techniques, which I think is so cool. There's none of these undertones of politics that you see,
agree.
and so many. In our particular specialty
Sure.
meetings. I mean, obviously they're great, and I attend them too. But I think that's the difference here that really stands out.
No, and that's why I'm here, and we
Me
were here
too.
from the very
well, yeah,
beginning.
You and I
right?
have been together.
Yes.
That
From the very, very
we were
beginning.
recruited as faculty
Yes.
from the very beginning, and still here. And as far as I'm concerned, it's only getting better.
Absolutely. And so what keeps you looking and feeling young, Dr. Orden?
I think staying busy, number one, and obviously we're in the business.
That's right.
So when we have a no-show on the patient schedule,
Isn't it the
I
best?
will jump up there, and we have to believe in what we do. So I get my fair share of fillers and Botox. I haven't had anything major yet, knock on wood. And the other thing is, and you and I talk about it all the time, we've talked about it on the doctors, I mean, how you look is just a reflection of your general health. And so
absolutely.
it's diet and exercise, treating your skin from the inside
Correct.
out with diet and exercise. We touched on sexual health, that
That is so important.
if things are working down there, then
turns
it's
on a lot of
it's a
things
great
there.
indicator of your health in general.
Correct. And I mean, what is it like for next year? What would you like to see more here at the Aesthetic Show?
I really enjoyed I hosted the keynote speech on generational aesthetics and the different makeups of the generational groups, which probably stand out more now in society than ever. I thought that was a very cool perspective. So I hope to see something interesting like that. And then, my session on plastic surgery, something that I started, I think 5 years ago now. I mean, I'd like to see the attendance a little more, but each year we get more plastic surgeons, and we get some really good ones. So
look forward
my
to it.
session this year was tremendous. I mean, we covered breast and body and face and complications.
Let's get more derms and plastic surgeons
patient
here.
selection and all those key important things. So I would like to see that session, we call it the Future of Plastic Surgery session, continue to just
Great.
get bigger and better.
Well, Dr. Orden, always a pleasure.
We're not done, are we?
Yes, that's it.
Well,
I'm going to see you on the doctors.
I knew you're a pretty darn good hostess there.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you. That's a lot coming from you.
Well, I mean
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. So our next guest is Dr. Farhan Tagizadeh, and he is a board-certified ENT facial plastic and reconstructive surgeon from Arizona. And we were just at the faculty dinner together catching up.
We were.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
All
so
right,
good to see you again. Thank you for having me.
No, it's really wonderful. And we've done a lot of the regenerative medicine symposiums and talks together.
Yes.
And what is most interesting to you in that field?
You know, right now I think there's two initiatives that really fascinate me. One is the interspace between regenerative therapies and cryotherapy. So we've really done a lot of work with cryo skin therapy this year, and we think it's a really sort of a new frontier, not only in reducing inflammation, but also potentially in activating regenerative properties of cells from the skin all the way into the deep joint tissue. So I think that the work that several companies have done with cryotherapy is significant this year. So I think that's a big trend.
Yeah.
The second trend that I think is really important is integrity. And
very important,
and
right?
I'm actually going to be speaking on that here in a few minutes, but we need to be honest with our patients about what is a stem cell and what isn't a stem cell. And I'm really more cautious in what I say, but I think...
I'm so happy that you're speaking about that, because this is also one of my big frustrations, because people know that I do regenerative medicine in my practice, and they're like, well, I saw this advertised that they have stem cells, and then I realize it's not true stem cells. So I think we have the opportunity to educate the general public, and then again our duty, like you said, to be truthful.
Right. I mean, this is absolutely correct. In our market, every day on television, there are people touting stem cell therapies, and when you actually stem cell products, and they're not. They're growth factor products. They're regenerative medical products. The LA Times ran an article this week, which I think was very poignant, about people doing stem cell therapies offshore.
Yes.
And the truth of the matter is that the complications and the downside of that are not tracked. So I think integrity and really using the great regenerative products that are out here, but labeling them correctly and using them correctly. So that's the second point that we're really focused on this year. And then the final thing that I've been really interested in is 2 months ago, the FDA put out one of its first position papers on artificial intelligence and how it's going to impact our whole industry.
Well, yes, I mean, we own a Tesla, so we understand.
Yes,
AI.
AI. So I'm involved with two initiatives that really interspace with that. But there's a huge connection between what AI is going to do in our space and ultimately what we're going to be able to do in the field of regenerative medicine. So
this is so cool.
Yeah, it's just incredible. But one of the initiatives that's coming up is using artificial intelligence algorithms to monitor patients almost in perpetuity after our treatments. And that's coming up.
That's important.
Yeah,
that's important.
And there's one initiative, especially in Silicon Valley, and actually one person at the show here, it is her business to do that, and she's very passionate about it. So I've been really excited to hear about her work. And then, several weeks ago was the SRS, the Society for Robotic Surgery in Orlando. And while we have some people interested in robotics here, but the session on AI and robotics interspaced with aesthetics. And in fact, the very first lectures on aesthetic robots were given at SRS this year.
Really?
And it was fascinating to see the response from just a few years ago to this year in terms of how much artificial intelligence and robotics are beginning to creep into our industry. So I'm really excited about that as well.
Wow. Yeah. These are very, very incredible things, and hopefully in the future for the aesthetic show, we'll hear more about it.
Absolutely.
Right? And we'll rely on you to kind of update us and maybe invite some of your colleagues from those other organizations to come in and educate us.
Absolutely. I think our industry is going to go through really significant changes as the FDA position on artificial intelligence pokes into everything from our tracking of patients through our electronic medical record systems, our EMR systems, all the way down to continuous monitoring, and then through the field of automation or semi-automation of our devices and of our our dream that one day these procedures can be ubiquitous and relatively available to anybody who wants them.
Correct.
Because we're still.
There's still a difference.
There's too much.
Totally.
Too much, yeah.
So what are you doing in your clinic, like the practical side of things that you're most excited about?
It's vertical integration of different devices. So what we're doing now is we're not just selling a machine, we're selling outcomes-focused packages to patients.
I love that.
You love that.
Yes.
And I know you've done that for many
Yes,
years. You're like
yes.
one of my mentors in that.
Really? Thank
Absolutely.
you.
I've always enjoyed your lectures on that. And I think it's no longer just doing therapies, it's understanding over a 12-month period what the impact of those therapies are in the people's lives. So I'll give you one
Correct.
example.
Yes.
It's 110 degrees outside right now. And over the years, I just didn't have patients showing up for lasers because they know that heat-based therapies, when you're out in the sun, when you're doing all these doesn't make any sense. So what we did was we shifted our laser packages to strictly going to cryotherapy during the summer months in Arizona. And it's been an incredible paradigm shift because the patients are staying on their programs.
Right.
We're getting the similar outcomes, but they're really committed to the continuity of care rather than us lasering them going outside.
Right, and then you get better results.
Exactly.
You get less complications,
Right.
and it's overall better for the patients and the
Exactly.
practice.
Absolutely.
Right, and so I
Absolutely.
think looking at it that way, because sometimes with our medical training,
Right.
we get so laser focused on
Right.
what we're supposed to do, what we're taught to do, and how we were trained, that we
Right.
can't see the bigger picture.
Absolutely.
And so I think looking at the bigger picture and looking at the end result, which for us, we went into medicine to improve our patients' overall quality of life.
Right.
That is the end goal. And all these, now we have so many tools.
Right.
Right? To help them get there. And I think when we have more and more doctors who are thinking this way, more of a global,
Right.
outcome-focused approach, as opposed to, okay, we're gonna plug this laser device, specific laser device, because this is what we happen to
Right.
to bought, or
Right.
we were trained when we were in residency.
That's right.
I think we're gonna be much better doctors, and we'll have better outcomes for patients.
Absolutely, like how do injectables fit in with our devices and how do these things work together? I think we're getting towards the singularity of understanding the interspace between all these technologies. And again, you've been such a leader. I just want to give you a shout out.
Thank you.
Really, you've been a leader in this industry in teaching us how to vertically integrate various technologies into packages. And because of your work and other individuals like yourself, it's actually transformed into our EMR systems and our patient contact systems, where now these systems are allowing us to create programs as opposed to just treatments. And I have a wonderful coordinator in my clinic who's using this software to do that. And it's really because of individuals like yourself and the leadership you've taken, no, seriously, to train us on vertical integration that we're all able to do this today. So I thank you for your work, really.
Well, Farhan, thank you so much
Thank
for your friendship to the aesthetic show.
Thank you.
And this is why we're here.
Right.
Really we all have our own expertise and perspectives, and when we all come together and we share it with each other, we really take the whole field forward, in leaps. And then again, all of our patients benefit. And so that's really why we're here.
And to the point of the aesthetics show, I could just say one more thing, honestly. It is one of the best shows to learn about really the leading edge of technology in our space. And the freedom that they
100%
give us to talk
agree.
about these in these forums, I think when people 30, 40 years down the road look back, this show and these videos and this content will be very significant in terms of, in terms of a free forum to discuss these ideas.
Yeah, and
So
we'll
thank
still
you.
look really good 30, 40 years ago, right?
You will. I don't know about me, but I
All
know
right.
you will, Cindy. Thank you so much.
Take
Thank
care.
you. Take care. Thank you for having me.
All right, so our next guest, again, needs no introduction. One of my favorites, Dr. Jason Emmer.
How
Hi.
are you? Love seeing you.
How are you? I think we're
How is everything?
matching.
I did
oh
it
my
for
gosh.
you today.
Did you?
Blue.
Oh.
I knew we would be perfect with blue.
Yes, so what's new? I mean, I don't know if you even got a chance to even rest during this entire
No,
show. I
haven't
think
yet.
it's like, it could be like the Dr. Emmer show.
Well, that could be fun, I guess, right? At some point. But the thing is, there's so much going on lately in this field, and I just don't want to stop, so I might as well educate while I'm young and have the
Yes,
energy.
And you are young. We figured out our age difference, guys.
Yes. We're about only a month apart.
We're 10 years apart.
I know, it's unbelievable. Can you
It's,
believe that?
Yes, but
So I
Jason,
gotta do
was-
PRP,
Yeah.
I gotta do
You have to come
needling
down,
treatments, I
right?
gotta come. We're gonna treat each other from now
Exactly.
forward. That's our goal.
This is one of the best things about the aesthetic show as well, is that you find the colleagues, because you can't treat yourself. Like
you
I
shouldn't.
cannot inject myself, and you're like, I haven't had treatments because you're so busy. So hey,
I know.
why not?
I
So
agree.
what are you most excited about? What are you doing in your practice? And I follow you on Instagram, obviously, so does everybody. And so what are you most excited about?
I think the past couple years has been combination therapies. You know, you coined that years before.
Yes.
Doing a combination of things to get a better result. Treating acne scars, treating pigmentation have become really popular over these past years, and doing facial sculpting with fillers. Rather than filling a line, we're creating definition,
Yes.
we're tightening, we're giving, we're not just treating a fold, we're giving jaw lines and chins.
Yep, recreating the structural support for the
Anatomical.
skin, correct.
So that I love because it makes us more artistic, and
love
it makes
it.
technique and expertise so important when it comes to these treatments.
We're not injectors, we're artists.
Exactly, and that's what
it.
you're paying for. Not paying for the syringe, you're paying for the person behind the syringe.
Correct. And you
So-
can tell, this guy's an artist.
So that's where it comes to me with doing the lipo,
Yes.
because the lipo's progressed now to being not just fat removal, skin tightening, contouring, muscle defining, fixing bad work, sculpting the body, lifting the buttock, breasts. We're doing everything now from female implants to male implants like chest implants and arms and calves. So it's total head to toe rejuvenation.
That's it, head to toe. And I know that people ask you this because the before and after photos that you show on your Instagram mostly are male body, sculpting, but you work on women too, right?
I know, and the problem is I showed examples today. A lot of women come into me and say, why don't I see a lot of women? The women end up not wanting me to show
I
that
totally
they had the
get
work
that.
done. It's unbelievable.
Women
but the men,
want everyone to think that it's just all natural. I'm born
I
with
know.
this. I woke up like this.
I'm easing them into the facials and the peels, and at least posting that so people know that they're coming to my office.
Right.
But these, high def males, and they have abs underneath, you can really make a striking improvement. With women with looser skin and with contouring, you can make a big improvement too. So it'd be really great to be able to see,
absolutely.
these new technologies like Renuvion and BodyTite have really transformed how we do lipo. I mean, you do a lot of fat reduction.
Absolutely, and I love the Renuvion technology. So
See?
yeah.
So it's all about those combinations, and then I think the future is both internal and external wellness, and that's where I'm really going with my practice. We have our plastic surgeons, our hormonal optimization physician, personal trainers, nutritionists, along with the dermatologist, the skincare specialist, and the estheticians. So it's literally doing everything to get that person to look and feel good.
I love that, and I've always kind of talked about holistic way to treat a patient.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, we offer yoga classes in our practice. We talk about nutrition because
See?
as dermatologists too, right?
Yeah.
We know that our skin's, you know, appearance is a reflection of how healthy we are.
Very.
Our, you know, psychological even,
Yeah,
you know, status.
very.
And so that's all really
Yeah, I
important.
mean, hair loss, pigmentation,
Correct.
acne, all has a role with hormones and stress and nutrients. You know, patients who undergo chemo, they lose a lot of facial volume. You lose a family member, the stress causes a big
Yes.
impact on your skin. So treating those patients that way with optimization, nutrition, plus the lasers, plus the long-term treatment plan is what really is driving my practice right now, and it's making me excited because there are many devices, but you don't need all the devices to really get the patients the results they're looking for.
Did I hear that right, Jason?
Don't listen to me when it comes to the companies, don't listen. No, I mean, listen, I like doing the
I agree
research,
with
you
you.
know, I like doing the
Yes.
research, I like being up to date, but if someone said to me, you know, one or two would be hard to pick, but you don't need necessarily 10, 20, 30
Agree.
lasers to get a great outcome
Correct.
for what patients are looking for. And even now, I'm finding that for pigmentation, I'm going more towards peels and topical therapies now, especially with these stem cell products, and really good antioxidants and combination products. We're getting so much improvement in the glow of the skin, in pigment and in color,
Yes.
you know, and it's really
And-
transforming.
And I think as dermatologists, we really need to be pioneers in that.
100%.
You know, I have to educate my patients sometimes if they have wrinkles like around the mouth or their cheeks, and they want me to keep fill. I'm like, no, there's a point
Right.
where we need to not use fillers. We need to work on the skin.
Right, and that's where I always tell people there's those areas of aging. You know, your volume loss, your laxity of your skin, your texture, your color, your movement lines, and then surgery, whether or not we're treating, you know, the face or the body. You have to address each of those areas with appropriate treatments.
Correct.
Someone keeps coming in for lines, but they're doing filler and they need a laser. It's not gonna look natural.
Right, and
so
that's it.
Going to a good doctor that understands those areas and kind of fine tunes it. The other thing I think as us as dermatologists, we can really fine tune the combinations of, you know, using the PRP and the skincare, doing the peels and the lasers, combining all these things with surgery give even better outcomes. There's so many surgeons that I know who do facelifts and don't do a laser at the same time,
Right.
don't do a skin tightening
Or
at the same
don't
time.
add volume with fat or
Right, exactly,
yes,
or
doesn't make any
revolumize with
sense.
stem cell facials and fat, and the results aren't as good. And having that combination is what's really giving these natural looking results. There was a physician yesterday talking about how if you overfill the face with gels, then your face looks translucent
hard.
and full long
And it
term,
doesn't-
like
and it
doesn't have the
move.
natural features.
Right,
Exactly.
doesn't move as well. So,
So less-
that's why I love fat tips.
Yeah, less fillers, going to more natural alternatives like
Correct.
fat
And working
Sculptra
on the
Bellafill for
skin.
building collagen, working on the skin, and combining these skin tightening treatments earlier on to get a tightening and contouring and preventing a lift. Or if you do an early lift, using those treatments to prevent or keep that lift and prevent the future aging.
Right, and so I know people want to know, I can't let you go without you giving us your biggest tip on how to blow up in social media, because you know,
Yes.
Dr. Emmer
Well,
is
So you
expert.
here's the key to going viral. That's what I always tell people. You take a treatment that everybody does and you just do it in a different area. So for
What?
example,
Okay.
we post the booty facial the other day. It has 100,000 views in a day.
Uh-huh.
It's a regular facial being done on the booty. You know, and yes, everyone wants that, but it's shown in a different way. You know, or let's say you're doing Botox on the face, but now let's show it for sweating or for migraines, or for the other day I did it for redness under the breast. Show it for something different, you know, Scrotox, for example.
Yeah,
It's a hit, you know, maybe
It
not on
was.
social
I think
media.
that's what, wasn't
but-
that one of the things that
Yes, that's
really
one of
made
those things that
Dr.
made us
Emmer-
successful.
Yeah.
So with that said, you know, you also being yourself in a unique way.
Agree.
You know?
I think being authentic in social media will allow you the longevity as well. And
Yeah.
then nowadays, people can really tell whether that's really you. They
Yes.
want to know you as who you are.
Right, they
and-
want to know you before they come in. There's so
Correct.
many times people give me a hug or a kiss the second. I know
Yes.
that happens to you the second you walk in the room because they've watched all your videos, they've seen all your pictures, they're already super searchers. They're so smart when it comes to it. And I
Really
also
true.
think, you know, you don't need to reinvent the social media. You just need to be educational and really put forward the brand that you want. So, you know, I show sometimes me every Friday night, I show me working out. It always
Yes.
goes viral.
You guys want to see guns, you have to
Yeah.
follow Dr. Emmer.
Well, thank you. But it always goes viral because the people following me, they want to be healthy
They're being
inside and out. And they're
inspired by you.
inspired by the fact that we're a
Yes.
heart surgeon that's working hard
Yes.
and you know treating people during the day, but working out in our after time at night.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really showing people the true type of person you are. That's what goes viral.
That's awesome. Well,
know,
Jason,
I love you, Tess.
I love
you.
too.
So sweet. This is
So
great.
we're gonna go and get some
Thank
Korean
you.
barbecue, right?
Yeah, we're gonna get Korean barbecue, and you're gonna do my fillers, right?
That's right. Okay,
Perfect.
looking forward to it.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you, Dr. Emmer. Our next guest is Dr. Carolyn DeLucia. She's an OBGYN and founder of Viva Rejuvenation Center and V-Spot Med Spa. I love it whenever I see a female doctor. High five there.
High
I
five
think we're
to
matching
you.
with our little necklace down there. So tell me, I mean, as a woman doctor, right? You know, what do you think about this huge, I feel, explosion in finally the interest in women's health and vaginal health?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it is a very underserved area. It is an area that we really need to address. We need to address it now. Women are tired of suffering in
Yes.
silence.
And millions are
experience-
suffering.
Oh, terrible. From all the experiences throughout our lives, from the first time we become reproductive until the day we die and stop being sexually active. So all of that time, we want to stay healthy and vibrant. So with that, I wrote a book.
Really? Tell us about it.
Yeah, I just wrote a book. It's on for the layman. It's not for physicians, although it may have a place in the doctor's office as an informative piece
Sure.
for their patients and clients. And it's called Ultimate Intimacy, and it's the revolutionary science of female sexual health. It's available right now on pre-order on Amazon.com, and I have it this weekend for the whole big price of 99 cents.
Wow. Guys, make sure to get it. Because, you know, they ask me all the time, how do you talk to patients about it? Because, you know, as a cosmetic dermatologist, obviously, it doesn't even occur to them that I offer these procedures. How do you get people, women, talking about it? Because we're so used to not talking about it. We don't even talk to our sisters, our moms about it.
Correct.
And so what would your advice be?
Well, I think for the doctor's office, my biggest recommendation is to have some form of signage in the office, but in a private space. Like a little sneaky poster behind the door of the ladies'
Good
room,
one.
or a little sign on the back of the restroom, so that they see it and it spurs the conversation. Like, excuse me, doctor, you have something
do
that
it?
might
Yes,
help
yes.
me with this condition?
Yes.
And then they'll be all over it, and it opens the conversation. And we as physicians have to go get past the fear of discussing sexual health.
Well, you know, it makes sense for women to talk to you about their vaginal health because you're an OBGYN, but you know,
Yes.
what would your advice be for the non-OBGYNs, you know, who are interested in this field?
Well, I'm going to tell you a little secret. I understand that there's a gap that needs to be crossed.
Yes.
That gap is that cosmetic physicians who are non-gynecologists are uncomfortable with the area that we're treating here, namely the vagina. I said it, vagina. And with women being
Sure.
in need of this type of treatment, and with it being one of the largest areas growing in aesthetic medicine, We as physicians need to be able to do it. So for
And especially female physicians.
Absolutely. So in order to bridge that gap where the cosmetic surgeon is uncomfortable with the anatomy, and yet the gynecologist who's also interested in doing these procedures is afraid of the technology, they're unfamiliar with lasers, we can help you there. The V-Spot is helping to establish and cross that gap.
Yes.
We'll come in and assist you in setting up a V-Spot right in your practice, fully loaded with all the machines, all the protocols that I've written for all the treatments, and this way it helps you to bridge that gap and get really involved in female sexual health.
That's really an amazing thing because, you know, truthfully, OBGYN was one of the first things that I crossed out when I was in med school. I'm like, I don't want to be an OBGYN, but because of, you know, my kind of exposure and expertise in regenerative therapies, and then platelet-rich plasma for incontinence, that sort of was my pathway, and then being a lipo doctor, and then fat and stem cells, and then as a dermatologist with the lasers. So the combination protocols. Tell me what your favorite and most effective protocol is for vaginal restoration and rejuvenation.
I love the word restoration. I want to get rid of cosmetic gynecology worldwide. We're really working on that because it's such a misnomer.
Yes.
So that's number one. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. It has to be restorative. And the treatments that are ideal, it really depends on what we're treating. Laser is still the gold standard, yet in a very, very young patient who's having vaginal laxity, I wouldn't want to use a laser because how many years will I be doing these procedures? So for that patient, I love radio frequency, and that comes into play. So using a radio frequency device to bring back the collagen and elastin to the vaginal walls. And I will add PRP to absolutely everything. It's fertilizer, it's the elixir of life, and it's the way to go.
Head to toe, inside and out.
Doesn't matter what you're doing. And you know, I just left the exosome lecture, and I'll tell you, even exosomes are combined with the PRP, and what a way of the future. Yes.
Totally, why not? So what's the future for you?
Well, I think that continued exposure of these type of procedures to be more widely available for women, and for women to understand that they're out there. That's my biggest goal. That's my soapbox that I've been on for the past 5-6 years, and I plan on continuing my crusade.
No, totally. I think that as female doctors, I really feel like we have the responsibility to educate the general public. You know, I mean, everybody knows about ED, erectile dysfunction, ED, but I mean, when I talk to media about vaginal health, health restoration, they're like, no, that's too vulgar. You know, so there's definitely still a, double standard there, but little by little.
That's correct.
Yeah, so we're making headways, and one of the things that's incredible is the efficacy for these treatments are amazing.
Painless, simple, no downtime, or virtually no downtime. The longest downtime is 3 days of no intercourse. Other than that, the treatments have none. We have something as simple as a chair that you sit on. We call it the Kegel throne, the Emsella. You sit on it, it makes you do 11,000 Kegels.
I've tried that.
Isn't it fabulous?
And it's not painful.
No, not at all. It's a little bit of a tickle, I might say. So
why not? You can get tickled.
Right, so it's a really, really wonderful way of regenerating and building the entire pelvic floor musculature, which will then give us continence in you're fully clothed. So the treatments are widely available now if they're sought.
Absolutely.
And we have to be speaking about them and making them well known. And any physicians who's looking to cross that gap and jump into this field, give me a call. I'll be able to help you there.
Well, thank you for your passion.
Thank you.
Thank you for, really pioneering and helping push this field forward.
Oh, thank you for having me, Tess.
I'm 48, and like I said, I'm so happy that we have these technologies before I reach menopause. And so, thank you.
Oh,
Final
thank
high five.
you.
All
Thank
right,
you
see
so
soon.
much. Keep going. Keep your good work going.
Thank you. All right, so. Okay, so our next guest is one of my dear friends, Dr. Ryan Welter. He's a pioneer in regenerative medicine, and he will talk about the cosmetic applications of PRP and PRF.
Hi, I'm Sunil Chilakuri, Refresh Dermatology, Houston, Texas, and we're coming to you live from the Aesthetic Show. I have the opportunity to speak with a well-renowned physician here. This is Dr. Ryan Welter, and he's going to be telling us a little bit more about stem cells, hair restoration, and how we're using these aesthetic needs with regenerative medicine.
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to thank you for having me and for having this time. It's great to be here at the Aesthetic Show. It's always a great opportunity to meet so many wonderful people, and just really the leaders in all medicine kind of come together, and
I agree with you.
You learn so much. So yeah, regenerative medicine really is, I think, where medicine is really heading. I mean, instead of using a lot of drugs or surgical methods, we have so many now off-the-shelf products, but also autologous products, meaning products coming from your own blood or tissue that we can use to help help repair or restore health,
Right.
or optimize in a lot of ways. So it just depends on the situation. So I got my doctorate in biochemistry and molecular biology. I got a hair transplant a while back, and started using PRP right away, long time ago now, and saw some pretty amazing results with that. But it was just kind of neat to be able to bring both those, the medical and the scientific world together with that biological therapies,
For
and
sure.
see how it's going. So.
Do you think in the last 20 years that a lot has changed in terms of whether it's the technique that we're using or the actual materials that we have to harvest the PRP or PRF?
I think it's exponentially changing. What you're seeing now, for a long time, it kind of limped along with people just doing, like PRP, which is, basically a simple blood draw and getting the platelets concentrated, activating them, releasing their growth factors. Pretty simple process. But what you're seeing now is a augmentation of that. A lot of people really bringing the technology to the next step. A lot of new innovation.
Certainly.
You're seeing the off-the-shelf products coming up, which has really been amazing, because now you have things that they might be acellular, but a lot of them are scaffolds, meaning they were, for example, amniotic tissues and things like that. So they'll become from another source, right? And decellularized, meaning the cells are taken out, but they still have a lot of growth factors, regenerative potential, and a lot of these matrices are there really like the adipose or fat-derived off-the-shelf products where they take the fat cells and decellularize it. This is a scaffold that will allow more fat to come in, so it becomes a great filler. It's amazing, really, to see all this stuff.
That's neat.
Yeah.
So I've got a
Going
question.
in a lot of different directions.
Well, it is, and it sounds like, we started in aesthetic medicine. We were talking about using this type of growth factors for plastic surgery. We're talking in orthopedic surgery. Today, I see people coming in off the street asking about PRP. Should we put it on topically? Should we inject it?
Right.
know?
No, the consumer, the patient, everyone's become so much more educated, which is great, because there's been, I think, just a breadth of people learning about regenerative medicine and doing it. And so the more that people do it, the more that they experience it, the more they'll be asking for it, the more they'll want it. It's really great because it's safe. I think there's a lot of sexiness to be able to use your own self to heal yourself type thing. No one wants to have to rely on a drug or something like that. But if we can get your cells to harness, the growth factors that they could provide and what they can do to engineer change in activity is great. What we see in hair is really phenomenal. I mean, we can have someone who's really thinning out, and as long as they have some activity there, we can a lot of times reverse that with PRP or PRP with ACell and some other techniques. So it's pretty neat.
Excellent.
Preventative, really, anti-aging.
Is there a certain age group that you'd say, hey, let's go in front of a 20-year-old and we need to talk about using your PRP or your PRF before you even come to a hair transplant?
Well, I think you're exactly right there. I mean, everything in medicine, prevention is the most important thing. The sooner the better. So as soon as you start to notice a change or a problem, you should try to address it immediately. We're not really sure that the cells are less active as you age or that. There's a lot of theories around that, obviously. But either way, the sooner you come in, the easier it is to affect the change.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and if you're going to consider, let's say this through the hair where I have the most experience, someone who's starting to thin, we'd recommend, Propecia, Rogaine, that sort of stuff. Well, get in early enough, you could actually use cellular therapy as an adjuvant that maybe would prevent, the need for the medication if you're soon enough, right? And I think we've seen that in a lot of people, and I think that's good. It's also a godsend for women.
Yes.
Who, female pattern hair loss, which is, has a lot of different etiologies that are kind of come together to make that, where men it's a little bit more the pattern and
More
predictable.
accepted
Yeah,
too, sure.
and more accepted too, right? But they're not. They don't have Propecia.
Right.
They can't go to that.
Right.
So so cell therapy has been a godsend for them.
Wonderful.
Really good. Yeah. So.
Now, for those of you at home, you may not understand that Dr. Welter here, he's created a lot of the protocols on hair transplants and pre-hair transplants. And what we're talking about today is platelet-rich plasma. That means we take the blood, we spin it down, we're able to then harvest this concentrated amount of platelets to put back in and activate or reactivate that cellular growth. Do you have tips for people at home and saying, hey, you should do it once a month or you should do it once a year? Is there something in particular that you'd recommend?
Right, so there's a lot of different protocols out there, and I think they're all good, and they all have different applications and that sort of thing. An inexpensive way is to do a low-density PRP. The low-density PRPs are a single-spin PRP, so it's just a simple blood draw in the office. You have it's then injected in the scalp, and it'll stimulate hair growth. It's a lot of times done with microneedling afterwards, but that procedure is usually done about every 4 to 6 weeks until you have enough stimulation to go forward. But the benefit is it's inexpensive. I tend to do a higher density PRP, a couple spins, a couple other steps to get it all together. Costs a little bit more, but it'll last a little bit longer. And then I can just follow my patients and see where they go. And that's what we do at the clinic currently. So
Perfect.
Yeah.
So if you do the high density that you're describing, is it a one and then come back in what period of time?
Yeah, we usually follow you about every 3 months or so,
Good.
and then see. And then most patients, what I found in my previous years' practice, that they might peak at anywhere between 9 to 12 months,
Right.
sometimes even longer. And so they get on a cycle about every year and a half, or something like that.
That's perfect.
And that is nice, because then you don't have to be in as
Right.
much. Once you kind of know what you're responding to, it's
Sure.
good. So, but. We talked a lot about hair, and certainly that's where I spend the bulk of my time kind of understanding and developing some of these protocols. But you have to remember that these growth factors, cell-mediated therapies are great cosmetic applications for the face.
Correct.
I did my engagement today, the lecture on platelet-rich fibrin, finding that the activated platelets, if the fibrin is allowed, they start to coalesce, right? So they become like gel-like, right?
Correct.
Which actually becomes a great filler.
It does.
So there's some great studies now showing it works very well as a filler in a lot of cases, with some great cosmetic results.
Yeah.
So
No,
that's
and I
good.
agree with you.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because we talk about several things when we're talking about going to any cosmetic application. Is it something that you want to come in once a month? Is it something that you want to come in at, once every 3 months and things like that? So I think it's interesting to see what's out there. We're excited to bring it back to you at home. For those of you guys who don't understand what PRP is, definitely look up his website. So he's going to be able to tell you more from his website, and give us a call. Do you want to give any contact information for your patients out there?
Well, Dr. Ryan Welter, I work with Regenerus Medical. We have a staff of doctors that work at the clinic that can help you, and glad to have you reach out and get you the information you need, just so you can understand what the technology is. It's pretty spectacular.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So that's, again, for you at home, it's Regenerus Medical, and it's going to be, his website is
Medical.com.
regenerusmedical.com. So great discussion with you. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, and really a breadth of knowledge, because it's been 20 years that you've been doing this now.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
it's nice
long
to
time.
see what's out there and how we
Yeah.
continue to progress.
It's amazing. It really
I
is
love
amazing.
it.
Thanks so much.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah,
Thanks for
pleasure.
joining us.
Thanks so
it's a
much.
pleasure.
Yeah, see you.
I'm Sunil Chilakuri, and we're live here with Dr. Welter. He's coming to us from the Aesthetic Show. This is the first day, and we're excited to see what else tomorrow brings.
Hi there, Dori Sukap here, founder of Inspiration Management. I am here in beautiful Las Vegas at the Aesthetic Show Live. And with me is a very special guest, Dr. Richard Goldfarb. He's all the way from Philadelphia, and he's the founder of the Center for Smart Lipo and Plastic Surgery. It's so good to have you here, Dr. Goldfarb. A pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
You
It's
are
a
a busy
pleasure to
man.
be here.
You are a speaker. You are a plastic surgeon. You stay very busy. You are also one of the main educators for laser companies. How do you manage to do all this all at once?
Well, it does. It's complicated to manage your time accurately and still take care of patients, but you know, I like
do
new
it.
and innovative technology, and when we see something that's there, we know it's going to be helping our patients. You
Good.
got to do it.
Good. Now you are part of the faculty here as well, and I know that you are doing a couple of sessions, and one of them is on PDO threads. And
Yes.
that's becoming one of the most popular treatments. I speak with so many clients, and everybody's introducing it into their practice. So tell us a little bit about what is the latest and the greatest with mesh PDO technology.
Well, PDO technology has been really a mainstay now in the thread technology. I initially started working with Silhouette and had worked from them since their inception. And
Nice.
when I got introduced to this company that had something very unique called a mesh thread, where we would place it, for example, in the nasolabial fold, and then in the middle of that hollow area, we can inject filler in the middle of it, or we can inject a biologic such as a platelet-rich fibrin matrix like Cellfill.
Wow.
And it prolongs the life of the filler, plus it expands that area to give you a nice, smoother result.
Which everybody has a problem with that area. That's probably
Yes.
one of the most concerning thing for most patients. So is this a painful procedure?
No, it isn't painful at all. We have a new and patented topical product called Previdyne that we place on the patients, which is a 4% lidocaine
Nice.
with a special delivery technology that we put on first, and the patients don't feel anything. And we're really excited about it as far as the mesh fill. We can also place it in the tear trough area for what we call hollowing of that area.
Nice. So where can someone find that cream? Is it already out?
Yes, it's just coming out, and a company called ADT, which will provide the information for it, they can purchase it. And it's extremely reasonable. They would
Nice.
put a nice little bottle on their shelf in their office, and then when they have Botox fillers
Yeah.
and those type of things,
Perfect.
they
That's
utilize
very
it.
nice. Very nice. Now I know you do a lot of lipo.
yes.
Do you see a big shift between doing lipo and then having the cool sculpting, the Sculptra, all the different body contouring company? What are you seeing as far as a shift in that arena?
Well, I think as far as liposuction is concerned, I don't think anything compares in the non-invasive market that we can do in a very short, simple procedure by mechanically removing the fatty tissue as well as causing skin contraction and tightening of the skin. But there's certainly non-invasive procedures out there that you mentioned that can have a nice effect with the right patient. And that's important that you find the right patient
Yeah.
and don't try to put somebody who's very large in
Yeah.
there and expect these great results. The other aspect that we do is we combine it with something called M-Sculpt, which tightens the muscle. So we always remove the fat, but the muscle's always been ignored. And then we're doing the M-Sculpt, which I was fortunate enough to do the initial FDA research for the company of
That's
BTL.
nice. Yeah, like I said, you stay very busy.
Yes.
And I remember when they launched M-Sculpt, and it was like the biggest buzzword, right?
It was.
So do you have a lot of people coming in for that particular treatment now?
We do, as a standalone and also as a combination. We do an awake abdominoplasty in our office, what we call a lipoplasty. It's removing the fat via liposuction, then removing the excess skin, tightening the muscle,
Nice.
and then post-procedure we'll put them on the M-Sculpt, and we're getting just
Great
incredible,
results.
great results.
That's wonderful. What are some of the newest technologies that are your favorite technologies?
I think the M-Sculpt has been a major new one that's really hit the market because, again, nobody's addressed muscle before.
Right.
So, you know, in my early days of liposuction, just having that device, which still works great, I used to give my clients a 6-month membership to a gymnasium,
Yeah.
trying to get them to then further enhance their body with building muscle.
Yeah.
And now, you know, of course, they never would go. If they would go, and before, they probably wouldn't have come in the first place.
True.
But with the M-Sculpt combination, it's been a total game changer.
Yeah. I know that you speak a lot at business-to-business conferences like this, the Aesthetic
Yes.
Show and others. Do you also do speaking for consumers to educate them on what the latest technologies are?
Yeah, we do a lot of that consumer awareness. And my forte, I believe, is taking a complex subject and making it very simple that, quote, the layperson
Yeah.
could understand it and really, you know, agree to do the procedure after we explain it to
Yeah,
them.
that's great. Are you seeing a shift in the target market? Are you seeing younger individuals coming to your practice now, more
I
so
see-
than before?
I see a major shift in that.
Yeah.
Definitely the younger patients are coming in, and an increase in the male patient population coming in as well.
Nice. I just helped a doctor in Orlando, Florida, actually open up a sexual health practice. That's all she's gonna do. Are you combining medical sexual health with plastic surgery with some of your male clientele?
Yeah, we do. We've had a company called Progressive Men's Health, which is part of our sexual erectile dysfunction treatment plan. And we've had that open now for about 7 years. We've treated
Nice.
about 300 plus patients.
Wow.
And we have a really large series that we're going to publish in the literature. And that's been a
For the results that you're getting.
yeah, the results.
very
And we
impressive.
measure the blood flow before we do the treatments.
Mm-hmm.
And then we inject the cell fill and some of the other type of biologics.
Mm-hmm.
And then we measure their flow after, and the numbers are just
Yeah.
over the top.
So you've been a physician for 30, how many years?
Yeah, it's been quite a
30
while.
years. And it's amazing how science has changed, medicine has changed over the years. What would you say is the one biggest thing that totally changed the way you practice?
I think in the beginning, everything was done in the hospital, in the operating room, being a surgeon. And now I don't really even go to the hospital
Yeah.
and do it. We do everything in the office. It's safer, quicker results. The patients are happier.
Yeah.
And the risk goes down because
Yeah.
we're taking the anesthesia risk away.
And it's probably cheaper for everybody.
And it's definitely cheaper. We don't have the facility fee and the anesthesia fee. So
Yeah.
for the consumer, it's cheaper.
Yeah.
It's better for us. We don't have to round in the hospital and see all the
Yeah.
patients that way.
So I did a lecture earlier about how to generate more cash in your business. And one of the things I was speaking about was how to generate the money from the consultation process and how to avoid dealing with insurance. But I'm still surprised how many physicians still take insurance in their practices. It's like, why would you?
Yeah, we are totally out of the
Cash,
insurance.
right?
Yeah, we don't
Yes.
take any insurance. I've dropped my affiliation with all the
Yes.
the blues and all the HMOs and everything. So we don't take any insurance
Yeah.
at all on any of
Yeah.
that.
So what are some of your favorite lasers that you use in your practice?
We like, there's a whole host of lasers and technologies. There's some newer ones, Aerolase, Venus Viva is one of our newest ones, and we really like that. We still like the CO2 laser, you know, the fractionated
Yeah.
CO2 lasers, and we really like our little KTP laser. It takes a little bit of those, what we call those T-langs, or those little veins in their face,
Yeah.
and takes away some of the dark pigmented skin changes, and they're real simple to do.
Yeah.
And in our office, it's just a major part that we can add on when the patients come in for these other big procedures, that we can service them
nice.
completely.
Since you are so experienced, what would you say to someone who is just now starting out? What advice would you give them?
First advice I'd give them is don't get talked into buying these ridiculously expensive devices, because that's how you can get poor real quickly.
Yes.
And really try them out first, talk to colleagues, certainly talk to colleagues over everything, and see how it's working for them and what the real return on investment is.
Yes.
Because so many of my friends and colleagues have bought devices, and I'm guilty of it certainly in the beginning, that you don't want to get pigeonholed into those.
They're sitting there collecting dust.
Yeah.
But see, that's why they need someone like a business developer to help them promote it and create membership programs and have opportunities to really get traffic in there and promote them properly.
I think that is so important.
I think that's probably one of the biggest mistakes. They come to a show like this, they get so excited in buying them, but then they don't think of, okay, how am I going to sell it?
I cannot agree more with that.
Yeah, thank you.
I think reviews are important. We're very fortunate. We've had like 70 5-star reviews and nothing else,
Nice.
which is pretty nice. We must be doing something
Yes,
right.
absolutely.
We kind of go that extra mile. We'll spend the extra time with
Yeah.
them, and I think that's
Well,
important.
it all boils down to the experience and the results that you can provide. So if
Yes.
you treat them nice, you educate them, then they're gonna come back over
Well,
and
I always
over.
tell my patients, you know, you're family,
Yes.
and I wouldn't do anything different looking at that particular person I would if they're my own
Absolutely.
family, and I don't think you
Absolutely.
can go wrong in that regard.
Absolutely not. Well, thank you so much for being with us. It was
Thank
a
you.
pleasure to meet
Real
you.
pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. Dory Sukup here signing off from the Aesthetic Show Live.
I am thrilled to introduce our next guests, one of my BFFs here at the Aesthetic Show, Jay Shore, who is the founder and managing partner of Shore Solutions, and Mara Shore.
Hi there.
Yes, she is the VP of Marketing and Business Development at Shore Solutions, but even more important,
Yes.
daughter of Jay, lovely daughter of Jay. Welcome.
Hi, thank you, Dr. Mauricio. It's always a pleasure to see you year after year at different conferences that we're working together at.
Wow, this is incredible, and I love the topic that we're going to discuss because I want to know,
Yes.
how do you use influencers without giving out free treatments?
You know, it's an age-old problem that is of this particular age, and we have every single client that we have, they're asking us more and more about influencer marketing, and people—
So important.
Yes, and you know, we were talking about this today, they're self-deemed influencers from time to time, and it's knowing who your target market is and having everything in place ahead of time, right? Because I think what happens is that somebody comes to them, and an influencer comes to a practice, and they say, I want you to give this to me for free. And that's it. There are no metrics put into place. There's no contract put into place. Nobody knows the expectations ahead of time.
Right, I mean, and I've experienced that myself because obviously, you know, you want to build a brand,
Yes.
And influencers are so important. First, how do you even choose the right influencer? And second, when you get them in your door, it's like, when does it end? What's the accountability?
Right.
And then a formal contract, I think, is so important.
Yes.
So give us some tips.
Sure. So we say that you want to do your research, making sure that the influencers that come to you are the right target market for you, the right age demographic, they have the right audience, right? Is it the right geographic? So do they have followers in your area? Is this relationship going to make any difference? And putting all of those numbers into place. So Jay has a saying, and we all know it, is that what gets measured gets managed, and vice versa, right? So we talk about this and we work with clients, and we know that we've had influencer marketing gone wrong. And you've worked with quite a few clients on that in the past, and we work, and Jay has been negotiating all sorts of contracts for our clients for years. And this is just a new type of contract that comes into play. And you want to make sure that you treat it like any other marketing contract that you would have gotten into in the past. And so I think a lot of practices, they're used to that, yes, you'd have key performance indicators and metrics for TV, for radio, for all of those other more traditional marketing, and this is no different. So Jay, and even talk about when you even would go and look with, when you used to advertise in the practice, television, radio marketing, what did you expect from those campaigns? Because it's not really all that much different.
It's so true.
Very interesting,
Yeah.
because when you decide that you want to market to a specific type of a product or a procedure or a surgical procedure, today the word influencer means so much, because there are so many people that claim to be influencers.
That's it. My daughter bought me this shirt that says influencer, because anybody can be an influencer. Like,
Anybody that can buy a t-shirt from Target is now
Correct.
an influencer, right?
I actually like to think that one of my biggest claims to fame is that I was an influencer. And people say to me, well, what do you mean you're an influencer? I said, well, I'm a father. I'm certainly an influencer,
You're an
right?
influencer.
you did
to
a
me.
great job. You did an amazing job.
But-
This is like my dream right here, to be working
Mine
with
too.
my daughter.
Right, well, that's an influencer as a father and daughter team. But truly, one of the things that I think is best is picking the right influencer.
Yes.
Right.
So pick an influencer that is a target to your specific market. Don't have a male as an influencer to a female type of a product. And if you're trying to attract to the male population, have a male.
Right.
But don't have the key typical square jaw model influencer that's targeting and marketing to a product of the typical average male that is not that type of a
Right.
person.
So they have to be relatable.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And ask so that you know ahead of time, what does each party expect? So what does the influencer expect from the practice? And what does the practice expect from the influencer? And how are you going to look at those metrics afterwards to see, was this a successful campaign?
Right. I think that's the big issue for me is accountability. Because,
Correct.
you know, they can keep coming for more and more treatments, but then you're like, how do you measure? Is it, you know, are you really getting the return on your investment? And you guys are saying don't even give free treatments, is that true? Or make sure you're getting a return on investment?
Make sure you're getting a return on your investment. We say an ROI. Jay, it's the same ROI percentage that we look at for all other marketing, and I'll let you give that number.
Well, look, there is really a cost to doing something for free. Now,
Right, that's
whether or
true.
not you're able to get product or sample products or even skincare products
Sure.
from vendors, there's still a cost when you give away a product. You as a surgeon, you as a dermatologist,
Correct.
you
Overhead.
have to know
Yes.
your overhead and your time
Correct.
is a cost associated with it. People don't realize that. They say, well, my time was just my time. And I say, no, that's not true. So you have to measure and manage, what did that influencer bring to me? I personally will give away a lot of things if I know that you're
gonna get a
bringing me
big
back
bang for
something.
your-
But let me
yes.
make one real important point and let Mara close with it. People don't really understand that influencers are patients. And don't ever treat an influencer any different than you would treat any patient, from consents to photography.
Right.
Don't have an influencer that tells you you can't use my before and after photos. That's the purpose of
What's the
having
point?
an influencer.
And I say, so you want that ROI, look at an ROI at least 3.5 to 1. And when we look at what you're investing, like you said, it's overhead, it's time, it's product, right? That product does have a price point attached to it. And even if you're going to give away that particular treatment for free, that doesn't mean that that influencer then becomes a free patient for life, that you treat them for everything for the rest of their life. That is something we really want to make sure you're not consistently giving away the farm.
And sometimes, because you know we're doctors, you feel bad, you know, and if someone is kind of pushing you, or your staff, it's like sometimes it's awkward if you didn't set those expectations
Exactly.
ahead of time. Then
Yes.
when do you pull the plug? When do you start saying no, you can't have this if they're asking for it?
Well,
Go ahead.
also make sure that that influencer isn't also an influencer for your competitor down the street.
Yes.
Right.
Exclusivity
Yes.
is very important.
Yes, and I encourage you, have like I said, have a contract. Ask if they are truly an influencer, then they will have a contract for you as well. And I would
That's
even
good to
ask you, not ask you, but have you ask your lawyer for your healthcare attorney, have them review the contract as well to make sure that there's no violations in there, because again, yes, it's a marketing contract, but they're also a patient. So, and making sure that you set those parameters right up front, it's going to help you out of those awkward conversations later, because this is the deal. This is what we agreed upon. This is the treatment.
Right.
You don't get free treatments in perpetuity. That's not how this works.
Or if you're not posting or whatever it is, because that's the, you know, it's like,
Spell
how
it
do
all
you
out.
approach them if you never knew what is expected?
Yes.
And
You know, we shouldn't, as a medical practice, be honored by the fact that the influencer is representing us. Wow, we have ABC, XYZ, whatever the name of that person is, we have them representing our brand.
Yes.
Also, the influencer should be honored to be able to represent Dr. Mauricio, because there are far less qualified people to represent. And as an influencer, I would be honored to be the representative of you and your practice.
Right, and I think choosing the right influencer who's not just there for free treatments, but actually believes in you.
Yes.
Believes in what your
key.
practice stands for, and it is an authentic
Yes.
endorsement is key. For
Absolutely.
me, that's the most important.
And I encourage you when you work with an influencer, and we're talking on this tomorrow as well, we're going to be talking about this, but give them, as your practice, give that influencer your brand guide so that they can talk in an educated manner about your practice. Give them your brand guide. How do you talk about yourself? What is the practice's mission? What does the practice reflect? What are some of the practice's greatest achievements? Do you do mission work? Have the influencer talk about some of your mission work. How do you want to be known in the community?
Such great advice.
Lastly, don't sell the product. Don't have the influencer sell the neuromodulator, the dermal filler. Everybody sells those. Have the influencer sell you.
Yeah.
It's Dr. Mauricio.
Yes.
There's so many people in town. Why should they come to you?
Good question. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Maura.
So
I
great speaking with
appreciate
you
it.
again.
All right. So our next guest is. Oh, okay. Okay. A video. There's a video.
Hi, I'm Sunil Chilukuri coming to you live from the Aesthetic Show. I'm based out of Houston, Texas, but I want to introduce you to my good friend Nasser Mohammadi, and he's based out of Whittier, California, which is just part of LA County, really.
That's right. It's on the border of LA and Orange County, so I actually service Orange County and LA County.
Wonderful. And I know that you've done a very interesting practice because you have a true hybrid practice.
I do. One of the few that's able to do it.
Yeah, and tell us a little bit about your practice, and then we'll go into what you want to talk about.
So I'm board certified in family medicine. I do, my niche in aesthetics is non-invasive to minimally invasive procedures that provide really good results. And the key to that is making sure that everybody gets combination therapies, because no one therapy gets your patient to the goal.
That's exactly right. And it's interesting because you've heard me talk about this before, where it's every single company wants you to only use their device or their product, but just as you said, and we've been talking throughout the day, is really it's combination therapy. How do you pick and choose which combinations to use?
Well, every patient's different, and different things are required for different problems. So I have someone who comes in and they have severe volume deficiency in the mid-face, they have under-eye bags, but they also are starting to get jowls. So someone like that, they would get fillers, they would get PDOs, radiofrequency. Someone that comes in with bad texture, microdermabrasions, skin resurfacing, 2940 YAG, CO2 resurfacing, and also you can't forget you have to use the topicals.
You have to use topicals, 100%. Skincare is essential, I agree with you.
Everybody gets skincare.
Perfect. What if you have to pick out of all your skincare products, and not brand names, what categories does every single person have to be on?
Topicals. Because the number one thing, that, especially in Southern California and Houston where you're from, sun damage.
Sun damage.
The first thing you have to do is protect them from that. And for example, melasma. Melasma has long been a place where people are having problems with. You use photolight therapy to try to eradicate something that is caused or exacerbated by photolight therapy, by solar radiation, which is like photolight therapy.
Right.
And then you're using it to get rid of it. A lot of times it can backfire on you.
It can.
Versus just protecting them from it using the topicals.
You're exactly right. When you're talking about melasma, one of the things that we're finding more and more commonly is using PRP, we're using microneedling, something that doesn't have the same type of heat. How have you integrated that into your practice now?
So PRFM is what we're using, and what we have found is it is an incredible anti-inflammatory.
It is.
So it takes down redness, takes down hyperpigmentation. We just came out of a couple lectures where a lot of dermatologists are actually using it more and more for hyperpigmentation.
You're right.
And it works very well.
You're right. For the audience, if you don't mind, will you describe to the audience what's PRFM versus PRP?
So PRP came out and they're using platelets and the growth factors within the platelet to create and stimulate collagen growth and wound healing.
Sure.
So PRFM, on the other hand, so platelets like to adhere to something when they are in action.
Right.
So there's usually a fiber matrix which forms when you have a wound. The fiber matrix creates a scaffolding that have receptors for the platelets to grab onto. Once those platelets grab onto that matrix, they're stimulated to send out all of the growth factors that are inside them.
Certainly.
And so what you have is PRP, you use it, you get growth factor stimulation for a few minutes. But when you do it with PRFM, you actually stimulate the secretion of all of the growth factors, but then it continues for up to a week.
Correct.
So you end up with a much stronger treatment.
I love it. Well, and it's interesting because we've talked offline a little bit about the PRFM. If you have this fibrin matrix that's inside there, and if it stays in place and you can keep your platelets there for 1 week or longer, can it have a similar effect to a filler, right? And can we combine it with fillers to give you even a better effect?
So, been working on that, and yes, PRFM gives you a gel, and essentially when you activate it, you have to use that gel right away. Correct. Otherwise you won't be able to get out of the syringe.
Correct.
Or at least a syringe that's comfortable to use.
Right.
But anyway, we find that you can get some filler effect, but it's not really going to substitute for a filler.
Right. Yeah, you're exactly right. And so you'll find that oftentimes we're using PRP, PRFM, along with your hyaluronic acid fillers, and what that's going to do, it's going to create that scaffolding plus the longevity of the HA filler or your collagen stimulator filler.
That's exactly what a lot of the injectors are trying to look at right now. Will it extend the life of the filler that you're putting in?
Good. And so we're in the pilot study, so I can't tell as much yet. We're still about 1 year and 2 months, so we're 14 months into the study, seeing one side where we did with PRFM plus HA filler, and on the other side just the plain HA filler, same volumes in terms of how much HA we're putting into there. And we're seeing the skin texture has changed and seems to be a little bit healthier because it's been a split-face, double-blinded study.
Right.
We're seeing that it's a little bit healthier on one side than the other, and we're going to unveil and see what happens.
Well, I'm glad you talked about skin texture because that is one of the biggest reasons I actually got into this. Skin texture has been a very big problem, especially in sun-prone areas like where I live in Southern California. And one of the things we noticed a long time ago using certain fillers, especially superficially, they noted that you got this really good textural change. So PRFM does the same thing, but without the filler.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons I got into it. But one of the things I've noticed is 1 to 2 weeks out, I actually thought it looked worse. But you wait 6 weeks to 6 months,
right.
That's when you see the difference.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's important that we communicate that with patients, especially for those of you at home. When you see the 2-week result and you say, wait a minute, this looks darker, or it looks different, or it makes it look a little bit more boggy, I say, almost swollen more than it started with. You have to set that expectation that at this time is where we start seeing changes. And oftentimes in private practice, and you tell me if it's different in California, we do a little hand holding. So I'll bring them back at the 1 week mark and just to say, hey, listen, you're doing great. I look forward to seeing you in another week. And then after the 2 week mark, as it starts getting better, you can kind of ease it out and really set expectations.
I agree wholeheartedly. I do the same. I bring my patients back 1 to 6 weeks afterwards, and it's a protocol.
It's a protocol.
It's a protocol. But one of the great parts of it is under eyes with PRFM.
Okay.
It's been the #1 most appreciated new treatment that I have.
Excellent. Are you doing it alone, PRFM, before you put the HA filler in? Or what if somebody has a history of HA filler under there?
I actually have been doing it a week or 2 after the HA filler edema is gone.
After the edema is gone. Okay, interesting.
Because otherwise I don't know where it really is needed.
Correct. So then you're going to go back and you're going to touch it up with the PRFM.
That's correct.
Interesting. Okay, that's great to know. Have you seen any long-term, how long out have you been doing this now?
Actually, I'm at the 6-month mark.
Excellent.
So I'm starting to see the 6-month pictures come out and see what the patients are thinking. So far, I've actually had about 30% of my patients come back for retreatment because it works so well for them.
Wow, that's a great thing.
That's excellent.
Wow. We are at the tail end of doing a Volbella study for a company called Allergan. You might have heard them, and they create Botox and Juvederm and Volbella and Voluma and all this stuff. So we're just at the tail end of that 12-month study. Literally this next Thursday is going to be our last patient that's coming through, and we're seeing similar results. And so I'm curious, if we can use the body's own regenerative capabilities, can that extend the life of what we're already putting in there?
That would be great. Because the other thing I like to do, like I said, combination therapy. So radiofrequency microneedling on top of that is the next thing. So for a while it's been a controversy. Do you do light-based therapies or radiofrequency over HAs? Well, the question is, I think most people have discovered it probably does not diminish the longevity of it.
Right.
But we don't know yet about microneedling radiofrequency.
Correct.
But the question is, if HAs are really very identical to our own body's HA, it shouldn't really make a difference. And if the other treatments don't diminish the time it lasts,
Correct.
this one shouldn't either.
No, you're exactly right. And it was Mitch Goldman, for those of you guys at home. Mitch Goldman had written a paper about this. He's out of San Diego, and he showed that the boiling temperature or the denaturing temperature for HAs is so high, between I think 160 to 180 degrees, that typically what we're using in the skin, even for RF microneedling, is
It's
between
much less.
60 to 70 degrees. So you shouldn't be breaking it down. So you're exactly right. I love it. Anything else that you want to give for parting words as you're talking to the viewers at home?
Then I really need to mention how good the aesthetic show is for those that attend.
Yeah, it is.
Because I'll tell you, every year I come, I leave with things that change my practice. And when it comes to any CME, that is the #1 rule of thumb. You go to a CME, that changes your practice.
Yeah, I love it. I can't say it any better. I'm Sunil Chilukuri. We're signing off from the Aesthetic Show, coming to you live. And really, you got to hear from the expert himself, talking about experts teaching experts. So we look forward to learning more from you at home. Thanks again for joining me, my
Thank you
friend.
very much.
It's a
It's been a
pleasure.
pleasure.
It's a real pleasure.
Absolutely.
Our next guest is Dr. Joe Niamtu, and we've been talking already, and he was here all day yesterday.
I was doing this. I was doing the interviews yesterday. It's good to be in this seat. I'm going to
Yes.
make you do all the work.
Oh my
Tess.
gosh. And first I want to just thank you for all your contributions to the Aesthetic Show. And you know, we're going to talk about a topic that we both agree is so important. It's key to everything, which is managing patients' expectations.
You know, Tess, as you are well aware, one of the keys to having a successful practice and having good outcomes is selecting the right patients. And as any doctor will tell you, your patients can be the biggest joy in your life. They can be wonderful, or they can just suck the energy out of you and you go home beat up and
make you wanna quit. That's it. No, it's true.
beat up and tired. So I think one of the big things is that, you know, especially with younger practitioners, they don't have the experience, and we don't get any of this training in school, right?
don't,
And they
yes.
don't have the experience sometimes to realize problematic patients. And you know, when you first go into practice,
The red
and you're-
flags.
Yeah, well, the red flags. And when you first go into practice, you know, you're just happy to see any patients, okay? But as you get a little bit older and get some gray hair or no hair, you know, you start to realize some of these signs. And I think especially in what we do, cosmetic surgery, there's a whole different situation. So you know, my background is maxillofacial surgery. When I was doing trauma, somebody went through a windshield and had lacerations and facial fractures. They were just happy
To
to
be
be
put
improved,
together,
right?
yes.
But cosmetic
together.
surgery patients are extremely picky, and you know, from the get-go, they're not happy with themselves. That's why they come, right? And so, you know, being able to recognize these red flags is imperative. And I gave a lecture on this yesterday, and I think, and we can throw each other's red flags in here, but I think
Give us some. Give us your top.
well, you know, obviously the biggest thing is body dysmorphic disorder, and
it's real.
Yeah, and as you're well aware, that's somebody that has a minor or non-existent flaw that they feel has overcome their life. And if you do cosmetic surgery on that patient, you are actually doing them more harm than good. First of all, they're never going to be happy,
Right.
because they have this imagined situation. So you want to make sure that your patients are doing surgery for the right reasons. So that's a big thing. I think other red flags are, again, on the same vein, people that don't need surgery, people that feel that the surgery is going to just change their life. It's going to
Bring back a spouse.
bring back a spouse, save a marriage, get a job promotion, you know, this sort of thing. The response that I love to hear, okay, and again, facelift is my biggest procedure. So I do mostly aging face surgery. When somebody comes in and they says, hey, Dr. Joe, I'm not trying to look 20, I want to look as good as I can for 60.
Me too.
Bam,
that's
right?
my
That's-
favorite. I'm like, great.
Right. So you know, that's the perfect response. You know, and some of the other things, people that are too busy for cosmetic surgery. People that, you know, there's a lot of personality things. They come in, they don't want their pictures taken.
They don't want to sign, you know, things, certain things about your consent.
People that just, they don't get it. In other words, you go over all this stuff and they keep asking the same questions. And you know, I don't mean this like we're talking negative about our patients, because I love my patients, and fortunately, these are a small group. And you know, one thing is, as you know, 1% of your patients can cause 99% of your problems. So just as a patient does a lot of research to pick a doctor, you know, the doctor and the staff need to do a little bit of research on this patient to make sure you're doing the appropriate, the right thing on the right patient. And one thing I've learned, and I bet you're going to echo this, is listen to your staff.
Yes,
right?
I was just going to say that, you know, because they screen. They really get the real personality, because sometimes there are patients who will come in and they're so nice to you.
Yeah.
They're, you know, but then they're rude or condescending to your staff, and I definitely take that into consideration. You kind of have to be a lot more careful with those patients. Well, what about the millennials? Is there something different and more, you know, more challenging with this different group of patients?
There is no doubt about it that it's a different ball game. Okay, so first of all, millennials, you know, by definition, have never been without digital technology. And they are so used and keyed in to what I call Amazon mentality. Your Amazon Prime, one click, right?
Right now, tomorrow.
So the biggest things that I see is, number one, they don't want to come in for a face-to-face consult. They want to do a Skype consult or a FaceTime, and they're, you know, they want to do everything digital. Number two, and I just saw a really good article that was just published about selfies, okay? So first of all, as you know, a selfie distorts your view in the first place. And so people look at this and they think that they have things that they don't see.
Yes.
I mean, they think that they have problems that aren't there.
And then they have all of the filters.
They have all the filters, and there is actually a condition called Snapchat dysmorphia, okay?
I can see how that can happen.
And when somebody comes in and they start going like this, you know, they come in
Red
for
flag.
lip injections or whatever. And,
this is what I want.
And they're going like this, and that's, so if a person has 200 selfies of themselves, they may have a little bit of body dysmorphic tendency. Number two, then they get into the other group of pictures of what they want to look like, right? And, you know, and I always tell people, I said, look, I can make you look better.
Yeah.
I can't make you look like somebody else.
The best version of you, but not someone else. I mean, you know, and this is, I mean, if you're a good and honest doctor, that's kind of what you would want for your patients. You don't really want to alter them. And what about educating and giving them proper, you know, expectations of what the treatments are supposed to give? You know?
Right, and you know, I think that first of all, usually people that seek somebody out there doing it for your experience. So if you're experienced, you should have a pretty good collection of before and after pictures, all right? And I tell people, whether it's facelift, whether it's eyelids, whether it's fillers, go look at my gallery on my website. I have 9,000 pictures on my website.
Really? Wow.
Yes. So, and I say, you're gonna find somebody that looks like you, and you're gonna see an average or a norm. Now, you know, I think another thing, Tess, on this vein, is when you have to tell a patient no, okay?
So important.
And, you know, first of all, we are keyed up as doctors to help everybody, right? Not turn anybody away. But as we stated, if you're doing the wrong procedure on the wrong patient, you can actually do them harm.
And I think the older you are and the more experience you get, the more comfortable you are about saying no.
Yeah, well, you are, and it's hard to do when patients are young. So the other day I had a patient come in. She wanted to do a brow lift, upper lids, lower lids, cheek implants, facelift, and laser. She told me two things. Number one, I only want my husband to think I'm doing cheek implants. And number two, I don't want anybody to know I had surgery.
What?
And you know, that's not going to be a good experience.
That's a
so
red flag.
from the get-go, you know, you just have to tell these people. And I'm so honored when patients come to me, but I don't want to do them a disservice. And you know, sometimes I'll just tell a patient, look, I think you're a wonderful person. I'm so honored you came to me. I don't think I can do what you want to be happy.
I'm not the doctor for you, this is not the practice
the precision.
for you.
And you know, every once in a while, that might put somebody off. But you know, I've actually had people thank me and write a nice review.
No, it's true. I think you know, after a while, integrity is everything.
Right,
and
you know, and I've seen patients, as you have, who maybe you're seeing them for a third opinion, and their first two opinions want to do A, B, C, D, all this stuff, and I say, look, you don't need that. Don't do it. Wait 10 years, right?
Correct. Well, now let's talk about what keeps you ticking.
Okay.
You just keep going and going. Come on.
You know what?
What's exciting for you?
I consider myself a surgeon, a teacher, an author. I'm immersed in cosmetic facial surgery. I love it. And you know, when I talk to high school students or people about motivation or anything, I say, you know, what is success? And success for me is when you go to bed on Sunday night and you're excited to go to work on Monday. And you know, my favorite procedure is facelift procedures. I've done over 1,200 lifts. I do 2 or 3 a week. Anything from here to here that is surgical, you know, and surgeons love surgery. I love my staff, I love my patients, and I hope I can do this till I just fall over.
And you will. Thank you so much.
Hey Tess, it was always good to see you. It's always great to be at the Aesthetic Show. It's only 110 right now.
Let's just stay in here.
In Las Vegas,
it's
but it's pretty cool.
All
right, Tess, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Okay, this is Dr. Tess Mauricio. It was a wonderful cast of amazing doctors, and I want to thank all of you for coming, and I want to thank all of you for watching. I hope that you have an amazing evening tonight.
See you in 2020, Las Vegas.
That's right.
All right, baby.
All right.